Hello,
Hello,
everyone.
everyone.
My name is Sarah Barker, and I am the host of the Connect Our Elders Empowering Aging podcast. I am super excited to have Justine Shigley here today as our educator, and she's going to be talking about her new company, Legacy Lane Planning, and the importance of proactively planning and what happens when people don't plan. And so rather than me sitting here and singing her praises and telling you all about her background, I think that it'll probably be more impactful if she goes ahead and shares with all of you what her background is, her life experience, and what's led her to do this type of work and the meaning that she's finding in it. So, Justine, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. I am ecstatic to be here. This is something that I am just so passionate about. My name is Justine Shigley, and before I founded Legacy Lane Planning, I spent the last 18 years as a nurse. And the majority of that career, I was in hospice. So in my hospice career, as you can imagine, I have got to witness a lot of things that happen when life comes to a close. And I've walked into homes where families are holding hands, they're sharing stories, they're able to really say their goodbyes in peace. And then I've also walked into homes where there's fear, confusion, there's stress, and that's really in the room just as heavy as the grief. And in those moments, I really realized something profound is taking place. End of life wasn't just a medical event, it's a life event. But most importantly, it's a family event.
Mm.
And too often, the people that we love the most are making urgent decisions in the middle of heartbreak because nobody guided them or had the conversation on planning beforehand. So that's why I created Legacy Lane Planning. Yeah.
You know, Justine, I think a lot of people, because when you're sitting here saying no, they didn't do any planning ahead, and I'm just thinking of even some of my family members, and I assume this applies to many others too. Do people even know what it means to plan ahead for death?
Right, because really, like our society is super good planners. Really, they really are, and they'll plan for. We have health insurance, we have auto insurance, we have homeowners insurance, we even have life insurance, right? But I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you one thing: pre-planning and the end of life space. Not a lot of people are aware that you could plan for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding. I don't think that it's popular knowledge yet.
Right. And it's also, there's a lot of, it's hard to talk about death. It's not an easy topic. A lot of people don't want to have that conversation. And it's usually the hardest conversations that we don't want to have that we avoid. The conversations we avoid the most are the ones that are really needed to have. And
Mm-hmm.
to sprinkle in, just a little bit about my personal history and why it's even so important for us. And, there's no age on when you can start talking about what your wishes are. I was 24 years old and my late husband and I had a conversation before he passed away. And what I found profound was that his wishes were completely different than what my wishes were.
Mm-hmm.
And had I not had that conversation, I don't know if I would have honored him how he wanted to be honored.
And what led to that conversation? Because you guys were at a young age. Was it because you worked in the healthcare field? And did you work in hospice at the time, so you knew it was important to talk about this stuff?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how that conversation came up, but I've always been in the hospice line of work. It could have been sharing some stories, and because usually with hospice, not everybody is expecting to go onto hospice and them to be passing, right? Sometimes there's stroke, there's cancers, heart attacks. There's so many things that could really come up unplanned to where they'll find themselves receiving hospice services. Um,
Mhm.
so I'm not sure how, but I remember just sitting on the couch and we had the conversation about how he wanted to be buried and I wanted to be cremated. And it meant a lot to him. I remember him kind of being like, "What? You want to be cremated?" It was a big deal. And a lot of people have a lot of passion on what they want. So it's really important that we talk about these things. So the pre-planning or the final arrangements piece is something that often goes overlooked.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's advance the slide.
Yes. All right. So what does that look like? This road can look a lot different. So again, as a hospice nurse, I didn't just learn pre-planning in theory. I really lived it at the bedside.
Mm.
So again, when planning's in place, families are fully present. They're able to grieve without fear, and they're able to have the meaningful goodbyes, right? They're not worried and they're not stressing about what's to come. But when the planning wasn't in place, the experience looked totally different. Families were often overwhelmed, trying to make major decisions within hours of loss.
Mm.
They're unsure if they're making the right choice. They're worried about the cost, the paperwork. Um, and during an already emotional time, there could be big differences in opinions between family members. Mom wanted this. No, mom wanted that. I want mom closer to me. No, I want her here. And
it tears otherwise happy family relationships apart, these
right,
disagreements, right? Because they're grieving heightened state of emotions. And now, because the loved one, did not clearly make their wishes known, everybody has an opinion, and it puts people at odds. Is that what you're seeing? It's like the culmination of the grief, the emotions combined with different opinions. It just is a recipe for disaster.
absolutely. Like these moments in the families where they're arguing, those arguments last long after the funeral, right? So there's I always want to be proactive. Like this is why the work I do, I'm so passionate about it, because planning these conversations earlier is just going to help families experience just a better process. They're going to have a better goodbye. They're going to be, it doesn't take away the grief. It doesn't take away the loss, but it changes the experience.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing I would say is the person who has passed away, right? Mom or dad. The last thing they want is for all their children to be at odds with each other, fighting over this stuff.
Absolutely. It's the last thing that they want to do. So when Legacy Lane planning came to me and came to mind, it's just my role and is just to help families think through these decisions, because there's always going to be a difference in opinion. So to have those conversations, to be able to document what it is that you want, to not leave people, guessing. We just want to make sure their wishes are respected, and that's what I do.
Mm-hmm. And it's, do you think, I mean, why is it so important to have a conversation like this facilitated, right, by somebody like you? I mean, I have my ideas for why, which would be because some people don't even know the right questions to be asking themselves, right? And they don't know what the options are. Or through a professional like you, when you can facilitate this conversation, you can reduce the uncomfortableness of the topic.
Right. It is a very uncomfortable topic to have, and I really do bring a lot of peace and clarity and understanding, not just from a professional standpoint, but also a personal standpoint. When you have a professional that you're able to walk through, we're able to ask you the questions that you wouldn't think of, right? Or what does that look like? And I could tell you, Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
the more conversations I have on what would your funeral or your end of life arrangements look like, it's not black and white. I have seen some and heard of some things that, like, you know what? I've never thought of that. So everybody comes with this unique perspective. It's a unique way that they want to honor themselves. It's really it's amazing to get to see this from even a professional standpoint. Like, I get to learn from my clients as much as they get to learn from me. So it's really an honor.
That's interesting. It's something that just came to mind for me, Justine. And you and I do have to meet because I should start thinking about these things. Not that I'm going to die anytime soon, but still, just to talk about it, right? I think at my funeral, I want it to be an 80s hair band rock concert for everybody. So, like a total celebration.
So do you see, like, that is amazing. And you can put all of these plans in place and what your wishes are, so your family is not left guessing. Like, how fun an 80s rock party, like for me. And like for me, I just wanted to be by the beach, super peaceful, wind, blowing, hopefully around a sunset, because I love sunsets. So look at how different you and I would want our end of life, right, to look like. And that's unique for each individual.
It is. And you said something that I think is incredibly important for people to hear. If the wishes are not communicated, right, the people left behind, whether it's a spouse, adult children, having to make decisions and them not knowing for sure if they're making the right decision or not, are they doing what you would have wanted or not, is a heavy thing to carry for the rest of one's life, that not knowing if you made the right decision.
Yeah, there was a story that was shared with me in regards to a loved one passing, and they were feeling guilt after the funeral had passed because they didn't bury their loved one in their favorite jacket, right? So these decisions can affect people even long term.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just during, right? It can happen, just like some of the confrontations. Those confrontations can carry over. So just being able to communicate. I mean, everybody says communication is the key, right? We always talk about communication. So being able to communicate what it is that you want, you're not going to be left guessing.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on. Oh, so did you want to focus on this part of lock in today's prices and avoid future increases? Because I think many are probably looking at that saying, what's that even about?
Right. So we're able to lock in today's prices and avoid any future cost increases. That's huge, right? A lot of people, inflation is a real thing. We're just seeing it with our eggs and our bread, but cost of the funerals do also go up. So being able to pre-plan, you do lock in today's prices, which is a practical form of protection. And a lot of people don't realize that's available. And then families who are concerned about affordability, there's also payment options. So depending on the age of the person and circumstances, they do have to answer a couple health questions, but plans can be completed over time. Sometimes 1, 3, 5, 7, up to 10 years.
Okay.
So I love that.
That's really good to know. All right, what is next?
What is next? So pre-planning, I like to say, is not about end of life. It's really about just protecting your family and honoring your loved ones. It's protecting your family on the hardest day that they're going to have. So when you lose a loved one, you're already grieving. You're having a really hard and an emotional day. So how can we protect them by not having to have to ask them all of the questions and have them sit and have to make those decisions? Because when I was 24 years old and I had to sit at the mortuary and sign paperwork, I was in a completely different state of mind. So having all of your paperwork already completed, I mean, we get everything that's required for signatures, from embalming, cremation, all of the information that's required for death certificates. So your family is not having to scramble and find that information.
Think about that, right? You just lost somebody very, very important to you. And then the amount of questions, the amount of paperwork. But what you're saying is through legacy, lane planning, right? Doing this pre-planning. If the loved one passes away, it's already done, right? It's already talked about. It's already known. Does it reduce the sheer amount of paperwork that the surviving family member has to deal with?
Correct. So most of or all of the paperwork is completed, depending. So there's different mortuaries, depending on location. So there's certain paperwork that has to be done. Now, if a loved one moves to another county, or they move across the state, that those funds may get transferred to a different funeral home, correct? So if that gets transferred to a different funeral home, they may have paperwork that's required. So the family may have to sign additional paperwork.
Okay.
But all of the arrangements and the documentation and what the wishes are already completed. And the family will have access to all of those documents as well.
Okay. Okay. All right. What else should we know about pre-planning?
Just with pre-planning, our goal here is just for families to gain clarity, to gain peace. I really want love to be the focus when somebody experiences loss and not have to worry about the logistics of things.
Mm-hmm.
And if we as professionals can help start these conversations earlier, we don't just change plans. Like, we're really changing how families experience loss. And I know it's a hard topic to talk about. It's something that I've been talking about for 18 years. And, I come from this from a professional standpoint. I've lived it at the bedside. And so it's really an honor for me to be able to bring these conversations to light and help guide families
Mm-hmm.
through a hard conversation.
Thank you. So, Justine, did you say 18 years that you've been in hospice, or 18 years in like the senior care industry?
So 18 years, I've been a nurse for 18 years. The first 4 years of my career, I was in skilled nursing. So 14 years just hospice, but in the skilled nursing, we had clients and patients who were on hospice as well. So all in all, I've been dealing with hospice for 18 years.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. So with your business, Legacy Lane Planning, if somebody were to ask you right now, hey, Justine, what is this? What do you do? How is it that you're helping people? What would you say?
What would I say? I help bring light to one of the most controversial topics to help protect your family, and help protect you, to be sure that you're clear on what it is that you want for your final arrangements.
That's beautiful. And then the tools that you use to do that, right? So you're facilitating the conversation, something that's very difficult, right? But due to your many years of experience of navigating, right, these sorts of situations. But then the tool, right, that you use what is it called? Pre-needs burial?
It's pre-planning.
Pre-planning. Okay, got it.
So pre-planning, it looks, it could look different, right? There's really, it's hard for me to like be able to like put it into like a package per se, because there's so many different options available, when it comes to burial, cremation, people who may want a viewing and a service prior to cremation, or do they just want graveside burial only? I mean, there's so much that goes into the pre-planning process that I really have to have the conversation to be able to educate what that would look like for the client.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. So when you think about your business, are there any specific types of professionals that a business like yours, Legacy Lane Planning, would collaborate with? I mean, because in my mind, but it might just be an assumption, I would picture estate planning attorneys wanting to know Legacy Lane Planning to use you guys as a resource for their clients when they're doing their part of the planning. I'm assuming probably hospice agencies, palliative care programs. What other sorts of professionals? I mean, I think everybody should know about you guys, right? But I'm trying to think of like strategic professionals that would want to really leverage what you do for their clients and their patients and their residents.
Right. Estate planners, as you mentioned, are great because they're already having the conversations, right? They're getting their estate and all of their affairs ready, right, for when needed. So that is the perfect opportunity to ask if they have any pre-planning arrangements made, and if not, I would love to be able to help them. Even home care agencies, if they're getting a client asking, do you have funeral and mortuary arrangements in place? Right? I know some people are scared to even ask the question. However, it's really important, right? We're, even as the healthcare professionals, right, knowing if something does happen to a client, what those wishes or where they needed to go are in place. I do work and collaborate with hospice as well. So great. Anybody in the independent living space would like me to do a seminar where I could do education on the importance behind pre-planning, what pre-planning looks like. I love to do educational seminars as well.
Wonderful. So anybody in the audience, whether we're connected on Facebook or LinkedIn, or you end up watching the recording of this on YouTube. So if you're some sort of professional and you can see the value of leveraging Justine and her company Legacy Lane to help you add more value to your clients, I would recommend that you reach out to her and schedule a meeting to learn more. And then anybody in the audience that you've been hearing this and you're thinking, okay, I think I should probably start having this conversation myself, or you're an adult child and you know your parents have not started talking about these things, please reach out to Justine to schedule. Would it be a discovery call, Justine, at first?
Absolutely. We just get on a call, see what type of resources are available, what's been going on. And if they feel like they would like for me to come out to them, or if they would want me to meet with them, I do have a location in La Mesa that we could meet at as well. So options are whichever they prefer.
That's a question I forgot to ask. So with the services that you offer, is it just Southern California, all of California, nationwide? How does that work?
Yeah, so me personally, I am licensed in all of California. Okay. So I am a licensed agent here in California, so I can handle all of California needs.
Awesome. Well, I know a lot of you in the audience. I know you from the home care industry, and I know that you're spread out throughout California. So I would recommend you reach out to Justine to learn more about this, because before I had met Justine, I hadn't really collaborated before with anybody that does what she does, but this is a valuable resource to be putting in front of your clients or the family members of your clients that you're serving. So that way we can play a small role in protecting, right, the family members when their loved one passes away. They can focus on the grief, they can focus on being there for each other and not having to be overwhelmed with decisions, not even knowing if they're making the right decision. So if I was still a marketer in home care, I would be leveraging the heck out of legacy lane planning. So I'm just saying. Justine, thank you so much for being our guest today. Do you have any final words for the audience?
No, I just want you to thank everybody for listening and taking the time to be here. Thank you, Sarah, for having me on your podcast. It's been amazing getting to know you and getting able to work alongside you. So it's my honor to be here. And I just appreciate everybody for taking their time today. So I hopefully will be talking to you guys soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justine.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Too.